welcome to Banished Voices. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Shannon.
All right, Shannon. Imagine a brilliant young woman, college graduate, a traditional dancer who once graced the National Mall in Washington, a devoted mother and community helper who dedicated her life to supporting Native women through crisis. Emmilee Risling had everything ahead of her. Then, in the fall of 2021, during a profound mental health struggle, she was last seen, naked and distressed, crossing a remote bridge over the roaring Klamath River on California's Yurok Reservation.
So I'm just going to stop you there. Naked?
Mm-hmm.
If she was seen naked, did anyone call to help?
Yeah. And
I was like, hold on a sec. I just got to stop you right there and ask a question.
Now, this wasn't the first time.
Oh, okay.
And she'd been picked up for it and they would let her go.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, especially if she's in a mental health distress. But I'm just like, it's rather shocking to see an unclothed person.
Right. Just on the river or on the bridge by the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's remote. I have some pictures I'll show you and that we can post in the blog with this episode.
Okay.
It's incredibly beautiful.
Let's see, I've heard of Klamath River. I don't think I've ever heard of Yurok. Is it Yurok Reservation?
I believe so, yeah. So that was fall of 2021. She's never seen again. In the 4 years since, searches have turned up nothing. We've had anonymous tips, cadaver dogs, river patrols, and all leads have gone cold. Today, a $20,000 reward still stands for any information that could bring her home.
So that's interesting because I know when there's an award, and especially a high dollar one like this, they have a better idea and a better picture of what happened that maybe they're not disclosing.
Right.
But that's interesting that that's a high dollar amount.
It is. And we don't see that very often.
No.
We have a lot that have no reward.
Right. No reward.
I'm going to tell you the story of Emmilee, who is one of thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women whose cases too often vanish into these jurisdictional cracks and silence. What really happened on that bridge and why has no one been able to find her? Before the bridge, before the searches that turned up nothing, before the headlines, the heartbreaking pleas from her family, there was Emmilee, the girl who lit up every room she walked into. Picture this, a young woman in her cap and gown, beaming on the campus of University of Oregon in 2014. Emmilee had just earned her degree in political science. She was class president in high school. She had received a $20,000 scholarship to go to college. The kind of student who professors remembered not just because she was smart, but for her drive. She wasn't just passing through, she was building something. She had big dreams. Emilee's world was rooted deeper than just the classroom. She was enrolled in the Hoopa Valley Tribe.
What part of the country is this in?
California.
Okay.
From a family renowned for crafting these exquisite traditional items for their tribe, the intricate baskets, feathered headpieces, dresses that carry stories in every stitch, Emmilee grew up immersed in ceremony. At just 15 years old, she danced on the grand steps of the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. She welcomed visitors with prayer and song. There were drums echoing, regalia swaying. She moved with a grace that honored her ancestors and inspired the next generation. Emmilee wasn't just participating in culture, she was living it, breathing it. Back home, along the Klamath and Trinity Rivers.
I feel like there's a Klamath, Oregon or something. Klamath Falls, that's what it is. I want to say there's a waterfall. Klamath, yes.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Back home, she poured that same passion into helping others. As a welfare caseworker, Emmilee guided Native women through some of their darkest moments: domestic violence, addiction, the aftermath of incarceration. She knew their pain because she carried the weight of her community in her heart. And as a mother to two beautiful children, a son and a daughter, she dreamed of giving them the world. Friends and family remember her as a bubbly, goal-oriented person, the one who could make you laugh even on the toughest days. She sounds like she was perfect for the job that she had. She sounds like the kind of person who is someone you would want to talk to.
A degree in political science, and then you go and help your community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, yeah. Had she been married or was she currently married?
She wasn't currently married.
Okay.
She was dating someone, though.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 kids.
Yes.
Okay.
I know this second was with who she was dating at the time. I'm not for sure about her son.
Okay.
Emmilee wasn't just surviving in a world that too often overlooks Indigenous women. She was thriving. She had plans. She had a future. She had this light that burned bright. Sometimes, though, even the strongest light flickers when the storms roll in. For Emmilee, that storm started gathering around 2019. After college, after the dreams of law school, after her passion and pouring that into making real change for her people, she found herself in an abusive relationship. It was the kind that chips away at you slowly, isolating, controlling, violent in ways that leave scars you can't always see. Her parents, Gary and Judy, watched in heartbreak as their vibrant daughter began to change. Methamphetamine entered the picture, a cruel escape that only tightened the grip of addiction and despair. Then came the birth of her daughter in 2020, a beautiful little girl who brought joy, but also what many people believe was postpartum psychosis. Emilee's mental health spiraled quickly after that.
Was she already using methamphetamine?
It seems
and
like
then
it.
had the baby? And so, yeah, if she went right back into her addiction and was dealing with postpartum, God, I can only imagine the chemical imbalances all over the place just from giving birth and then dealing with drugs. Like, that's horrible.
And not having a partner who is helping get you through that, but has you also isolated and controlled and away from the people who love you and could help pull you out of that.
With a newborn.
Exactly.
Like, no
Nothing
sleep.
is more isolating.
You're a feeding machine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In the months leading up to the fall of 2021, Emmilee was often seen wandering the roads of Hoopa and the Yurok reservations. She would often be found hitchhiking, sometimes undressed, talking to herself, dancing in ways that spoke of this deep disconnection. Tribal police and sheriff's deputies picked her up time and again. They didn't charge her.
Yeah, I mean, with what?
Exactly.
I mean, I guess they could do
indecency.
Yeah, but I mean, really?
Right.
Who?
And I'm glad that they didn't, but at the same time, they also weren't taking to get her help.
Yeah.
They just would let her go after this happened. Because the nearest inpatient mental health facility was almost always full. Addiction treatment was scarce on the reservations. Her family begged for intervention, but the system, just like so many others, had cracks wide enough for someone in crisis to fall right through.
And plus, she's an adult. So it's increasingly difficult to get help for an adult who isn't open to the help.
Right. In late September 2021, things escalated. Emmilee was found in the Hoopa Valley Tribal Cemetery, naked, dancing around a small fire that she'd started in the middle of the graves that were there. Tribal police arrested her this time for arson. Her loved ones, including the Hoopa Valley Tribal Police Chief at the time, pleaded in court for her to get mandatory mental health and addiction support. Instead, she was released in less than 24 hours. Back on the streets, no services, no follow-up that could have possibly saved her. Judy, her mother, later said there were just no services for her. People tended to look the other way. By October 2021, Emmilee was barely holding on. And then she was gone. So let's go back to those final days as much as we can piece together from witness accounts, family statements, and law enforcement records. On October 14th, 2021, a witness spotted a woman matching Emilee's description, naked and what she says was visibly distressed, crossing the Pequon Bridge over the Klamath River. This remote spot, which is deep on the reservation near the communities of Pequon and Whitechpec, which is also called Watek or Johnson, marks where the paved road ends and the dense forest takes over. 2 days later, on October 16th, a cousin grew worried after no word from Emmilee, and this cousin posted on a local community Facebook page describing her as not in her right mind. By October 18th, so 4 days later, no contact, Emmilee was officially reported missing to tribal police.
Do we know what the population is of this area?
I don't.
Okay.
Let me look real quick.
But this is on reservation.
It is, yes. Okay. The resident population of the Yurok Reservation is about 715 people, but they have more enrolled members. So they have about 6,000 enrolled members that live in or around the area.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's according to the American Community Survey estimates and the most recent listing available. So small community.
Yes, very small.
Mm-hmm. The search mobilized quickly, but in this area, quickly often means navigating the overlapping jurisdictions. So the Yurok tribal police took the lead since the last sighting was on reservation land, and they had support from the Hoopa Valley Tribal Police, which was Emilee's enrolled tribe. They are right by each other, some overlap.
Yeah.
They also had the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office involved in the search, and for better or worse, because now we've got 3 different agencies, which
helping.
Prior to doing this, I would have thought, great, there's 3 that are helping.
Yeah.
But now we see that usually just means they're involved and they're assuming someone else is doing X, Y, and Z. And then a lot of times nothing is getting done, which doesn't seem the case here, but we still do have some of those issues. In late October, the intertribal efforts ramped up. They did extra patrols, boat searches along the Klamath River. They checked back roads. Tips came in, possible sightings, anonymous notes, and we'll go through all of those in more detail. But nothing panned out. Months turned to years. In April to May of 2022, there was a major coordinated search that brought in the John Francis Foundation from Minnesota. They brought in volunteers, cadaver dogs. They covered nearly half of the reservation and found nothing. In the months that immediately followed when Emmilee went missing, a haunting lead emerged, one that would grip her family for years, even still today. A few months after Emmilee vanished in early 2022, her parents, Gary and Judy, received something chilling through an acquaintance, a hand-drawn map. It was crude, sketched in ink on ordinary lined notebook paper, rough slashed lines for roads, a simple rectangle marking a fire station nearby. And with it came a message from this anonymous tipster. Emmilee was buried there under a rock. So visualize this basic hand-sketched map shows up. You don't know who sketched it, where it came from. It seems like it was handed to a few different people before it made it to her family. No photo of the actual map has been released publicly, but there are recreations out there if you want to look. It's just this raw, unsettling, simplistic map.
Yeah, X marks the spot, but it's not really treasure.
No, exactly. The location pointed to a hillside area in the village of Watek, which we mentioned is also known as Johnson or Pequon, not far from End of Road, which is this remote spot near the Klamath River where Emmilee was last seen. Close enough to feel plausible, terrifyingly specific.
So I'm assuming that people went and looked in that spot. And did they find anything?
They took a K-9 team out. So they did go check.
Yeah.
They alerted.
Okay.
But not conclusively.
Well, and it's funny because I just watched was it Elizabeth Smart? No, was it?
No, not Elizabeth. I mean, Kristen Smart.
And I mean, there's convictions in that case.
Right.
However, they've never found her. But cadaver dogs alert in that area on that soil where they believe she at least at one point was. So even though a person may have been moved, they're still in the earth and the dogs will alert on that. So that's interesting that they alerted, but they didn't find anything.
Right. That's so sad that she's never been found.
They're convinced that because the kid that went to school with her.
Yes.
They believe he killed her in his dorm room. And then his dad came up and they moved her into their car and then buried her in the dad's backyard.
That's what
and
I
then
was
when
thinking.
the case started ramping up again, they believe that they then dug her up out of the dad's backyard because there was cadaver dogs that alerted there. Because the dad was also arrested and tried for obstruction. He was not convicted. And then they believe that because they had the mom's and dad's phones tapped, and you hear conversations that they recorded. And I mean, they're talking in code, but the mom is like, well, you know more than I do. And it's just very coded language, but it's like, well, we know what you're talking about. And so anyway, they now believe that she's buried in the mom's backyard.
Oh.
The mom is not giving permission to. And so that's what this team of researchers volunteered, their scientists. They got permission to her neighbor to dig soil. And the soil is also indicating that there's human remains.
Oh, wow.
But
how is that not enough to get a warrant?
I don't know. I guess you could, I don't know. But yeah, so to date, neither the dad was not convicted. The son was. He's, oh gosh, I think he's doing 25 years, 30 years, I believe.
So
but yeah,
10
but now,
or 12.
Right. Well, it is California. He might do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were student at Cal Poly. But yeah, the mom's dirt, or at least her neighbor's dirt, is indicating that there's differences in the soil that are not normally present. So yeah. So that's the theory, is that they moved her.
And so they probably moved her again after knowing that came out.
They now I can't remember, I think it's the dad's house. They're like, the way his house was situated, the backyard is lower compared to the street. So you could be doing all kinds of things there. And unless your aerial view, you would have no idea what's going on in that backyard. So to move her there and back would be simple.
Yeah.
But I mean, they believe that she was there and then moved. And now they're thinking she's at the mother's house.
Awful.
Yeah. But the son went on, because he was 18, 19, like young.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't
then
it
went on
20 years ago?
Yeah. It was like 1993.
Oh, 30 years ago.
But what prompted them to reopen it or really be able to push forward was that because he moved up to LA and was raping girls there.
Oh.
That's how they then got his DNA. And yeah. But then he was not convicted of any of those crimes, but did get convicted of smarts. But yeah, he continued going on to be, that's where you like sit there and I'm like, would I protect my child to that extent? Okay, I won't even call it oh, that's just one mistake because you killed somebody your first go round, but you continue hurting women.
Yeah, no.
And I'm like, I don't think I would want my son in jail and getting help.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, you can't say what you would do until you're in the situation. But
of course,
the fact that he went on to continue hurting people, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to kind of not maybe have any loyalty there. I'm going to maybe help the public out. Do
you think his parents knew that he was raping girls after that first murder?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I want to say no.
Mm-hmm. At least his mom.
Because I'm sure with the dad helping, it was just like, Dad, this is what, like, I'm sure there was
it was an accident.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah. She like, it got rough. And then all of a sudden, oops, a daisy, she's no longer breathing type thing. I'm sure that's why the dad helped.
Right.
Ugh. But the dad and the mom are divorced, yet still protecting the son.
Interesting. No body homicides are not very common, but they do have a higher conviction rate because you have to have everything lined up to even take it. So it's interesting. Emilee's mom, Judy, recalled that she was totally fixated on the map that they received. She photocopied it, emailed it, shared it with anyone who might listen, law enforcement, search organizers, advocates. But follow-up was slow, painfully slow.
It's oddly specific for them to not take it seriously much sooner.
And it's got to be which agency is going to be the one to go in and do it.
Supposedly in the lead or,
Right. It wasn't until the major coordinated search that we mentioned in April to May of 2022, which is when the volunteers from the John Francis Foundation came out with cadaver dogs, that the tip finally got serious attention. On the third and final day of that effort, handlers took their two most reliable dogs straight to the mapped area. And like I mentioned, the dogs alerted, but inconclusively. They didn't do an excavation. There was no discovery, just enough to haunt, but not enough to resolve. And I don't understand why they didn't excavate. Maybe the
Well, and I'm
land
trying
that
to,
it was
because I mean,
on,
it's funny.
they
I
didn't
just
have
watched
permission.
another one where they were using cadaver dogs. I didn't think there was inconclusive alerts. It was they alert or they don't. And so I'm like, what does that mean that they alerted, but it was, because to me, if it's inconclusive, that means they alerted, but then they found nothing.
Right, but they didn't excavate. the
Right. So
place.
now I'm like, how do you alert inconclusively? Like you only half sit, only one leg sits?
Right, or only one out of two.
Because usually
but-
they sit and stay, and that's the alert, at least what I've
Mhm.
seen.
Yeah.
Which I think is wild that a dog can
right.
do that. It's always crazy to watch when they alert and you're like, whoa.
Right, especially when there is something under that.
Mm-hmm.
But one I just covered for Crime Clueless, the dogs had alerted, they dug down, they found animal remains.
Yes. Yeah, I know it's...
But investigators think that had they gone further, she would have been down there.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, I know that it's not specific to the person. It's just there's remains here.
Right.
Is what they alert to, which that makes sense. They're not like, the dogs that are smelling
and following
and following that scent. They're truly
Right.
looking for human decay, essentially.
And I do wish that they had the dogs out there.
Right
she
off
was
the bat.
seen,
Mhm.
yes, and disappeared.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to follow
I
her
don't
actual
know
trail.
with the river there.
The water.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if she'd gone into the water, that would stop the trace.
Which is
Right.
one
Did
of
she
the
drown?
theories.
Exactly.
And
like it was an accident.
Right.
Of course, by then you would think a body would have shown up.
Yes, that's what I always think with the water ones, especially where it's not by the ocean, it's the river. They had 3 more years pass and they brought out another canine team to the same site. And again, nothing definitive. The anonymous tipster, never identified. The map's origin, still a mystery. Her parents don't know if it was a cruel hoax, somebody with guilty knowledge, maybe a confused attempt to help. I'm not sure.
Did they try taking fingerprints off the map?
That I'm not sure. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I'm sure at that point it had been passed between people. There was probably just too much on there to even...
Because it doesn't sound like it was mailed to her.
Right.
It was given.
Right, passed around.
Yeah. The hand-drawn map wasn't the only lead that surfaced. In the days and weeks after Emmilee vanished, community members stepped up in a big way. Tribal police and Humboldt County Sheriff's Office reported receiving many tips from residents, calls about possible sightings, whispers of where she might have gone, reports of someone matching her description, wandering the back roads or along the river. Early on in those frantic first months of late 2021, law enforcement statements emphasized that every single report was followed up on. Extra patrols scoured the Klamath by boat. Deputies checked the remote areas. The intertribal teams coordinated to chase down each one. And I like to see the coordination. Some of the tips pointed to spots just beyond the bridge, like a mile north in that isolated stretch that locals call end of road, where the pavement gives way to dirt and the river runs wild below. Residents reported seeing a woman who could have been Emmilee hitchhiking or walking alone, consistent with how she'd been moving around in her mental health crisis. Her father, Gary, has spoken openly about the pain of watching these leads come in and then fade. In interviews, he shared how some anonymous tips and potential sightings seemed promising at first, but follow-ups were slow, sometimes taking weeks or months amid the tangle of these different jurisdictions. He and the family felt that resources poured into other missing persons cases, like a lost hunter or a kayaker at sea, that weren't matched here. He said, quote, "The effort is sure not put forward when it becomes a missing Indian woman," end quote.
Wow.
Heartbreaking. No tip has ever panned out to a breakthrough. The cadaver dog searches, river patrols, ground teams, they all came back empty. Over time, as the years stretched on, those initial waves of community reports quieted. Yet the case hasn't forgotten. As recently as October 2025, which was the 4th anniversary, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office put out another public call reminding everyone that the $20,000 reward stands for any information leading to Emmelee's location or safe return. Detective Mike Fridley is still on it, ready for the next tip that might finally change everything. Because in cases like this, it's often that one overlooked voice, that one person who stayed silent too long, who holds the truth.
And then it just dawned on me again, like this easily could have been an accident, especially with what she was going through. Yet they haven't said that.
Right.
There's still a reward. So that's, again, very telling. Like, I wonder what we don't know that they know, that they're actually not leaning into the theory we always see, like, oh, they just ran off, or, oh, they're just out partying, or it's like they know something happened. Now that makes my mind churn of what evidence they do have that they're choosing to keep the foul play route.
Yeah, as opposed to
alive.
an accident.
Right.
Or
because if you're disoriented, mental health, you're next to a river. I mean, I know those rocks are slippery, especially if she's down by the water.
Or walking along that bridge.
Slips, falls, hallucinations. I think there's all kinds of accidents. It's very interesting that they're not actually pushing that narrative.
Yes. Because we see it in ones where...
Right. Like it's like obvious it's foul play. And then they're like, no.
No, she probably just chose...
It's her own volition. No, it's not.
Exactly. And I don't know if... Because the $20,000 reward seemed to come out very early on. I could see if they spent months looking and didn't find her, that they would say, okay, this is foul play, because we would have found her if it was an accident. But I didn't see that in this one.
Which I know Humboldt County is where marijuana got its start.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Humboldt County weed is world renowned.
Oh.
And I know that there's a lot of legal and illegal farms there because they were illegal until marijuana was legalized. But even then, now you still have illegal farming. There was, again, some show that talked about the dangers of actually growing weed up there, because when you have transient workers that come in to do the growing season and cultivate it all, cut it all, and get it all ready to be sold. But because it's government licensing now, there's still all the rules you have to go through. They also just talk about the rivalry, and it's still a very dangerous area, even though it's been legalized.
Interesting.
Yeah. You have a lot of anti-government up there.
That puts some context in this.
So you have, I'm like, I don't know if it's the exact same area, but I know it's Humboldt County because Humboldt weed has been known for years. I mean, I heard about it back in my college days. And plus, my sweet mate was from San Francisco, so that's also why.
Yeah.
But it's a very dangerous area, which you wouldn't think it would be. But again, it's also been very anti-establishment, anti-government, not in the right-wing sense, but almost the opposite, like the far-left sense, where it's like, well, I want to grow weed, live off my land, very hippie. And be left alone and sell weed to survive and then make my next crop. It's very much like that there. But they talked about the violence that happens, because again, I watched another documentary where it was just a lot of murders that have stemmed even since weed has become legal.
Wow.
And you'll find that the land, people do own a lot of land up there, because again, it was really cheap. But then you'll find like squatters on your land growing marijuana illegally on your legal. It's really kind of crazy. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
With the lack of trust in government, we're probably not talking to authorities. And then you have people coming in and leaving. Right,
just because they're there for the season to work and then they leave again.
Something could have happened.
It's very like hippie culture.
Yeah.
Which is, I would say, anti-establishment, anti-government.
Interesting. And maybe that's why we have less tips than they might have had.
Yeah, because the documentary I watched that kind of delved into it, I think it's from HBO.
Mhm.
They did talk about how they fully knew this family had murdered this other rival family. Like it was, the Hatfields and the McCoys or like the thing.
Right.
But no one would talk. But yet they like all knew it. And so
Like
it
a
went
Ken
years.
McElroy type.
Yes. So it's literally like that.
Wow.
Because again, these families have been there for years growing weed.
I want to
or other
research
things.
this
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
That's wild. Interesting that that's where all of this
Mhm.
happened. And then
So yeah, and
now
it's
we've
funny
got
because in that documentary, there's
reservations.
nothing about
The
that there's reservations up there.
Huh.
So yeah, adding that in the mix in
Right.
again a rural area, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's yes, a Native woman is going to be the last thing on anyone's list.
I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those issues, we've got the tips that come in, but it seems blocked by the invisible lines on the map. Lines that divide land, power, responsibility, that too often are leaving families like Emilee's in limbo, which it sounds like is not just hers, right? The jurisdictional challenges, it's at the heart of so many of our MMIW cases. We've talked about that in almost all of them. Emmilee was enrolled in the Hoopa Valley Tribe, but last seen on the Yurok Reservation. So, two sovereign nations side by side in Northern California's Humboldt County. These aren't just communities, they're federally recognized tribes with their own governments, police, their own courts. When a crime or disappearance happens on tribal land, it's not as simple as calling 911 and letting one agency handle it. Thanks to a patchwork of U.S. laws like the Major Crimes Act of 1885 and Public Law 280 from 1953, authority bounces between tribal police, county sheriffs, state authorities, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the FBI. In California, which is a PL 280 state, tribes like Hoopa and Yurok have concurrent jurisdiction with the state for many crimes. And we kind of saw that being the opposite in some that we've talked about, where if it happens on tribal land, only tribal police, or if it's somebody that's not part of the tribe that does something, they have to wait for outside police to come in.
Yeah.
But in California, it's concurrent jurisdiction, which might sound cooperative, but in practice, it's just confusion.
Yeah.
Who leads the investigation? Who shares evidence? Who gets the funding?
And I was just thinking of the two tribes involved here. And I'm like, who would be more motivated to solve it? Because that'd be a question I would have for them.
Mm-hmm.
You have Hoopa, who she was part of.
Yes.
Which I'm thinking, okay, well, I think they would, this is one of their actual members. They have incentive to solve. Yet at the same time, you have Yurok, who it happened on their land and we don't want this reputation. So it's like, well, who takes priority on I'm incentivized because it's my tribal member versus I'm incentivized because I don't want this type of thing to be known. It's okay to happen on. So even that is like a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. That's confusing and chaotic and unfortunate in these
And
ways.
I would assume that in this case, the state has more resources, and so, and I mean, I, again, watch enough TV where you see they bring in the special person to help with the local. I'm almost envisioning it like that. I'm sure on TV, it's much easier said than done. And of course, they always work so well together.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have the local. So in this case, one of the tribal or the BIA, the tribal police, but then they get assigned with a state person and then they work again concurrently. So they work together the entire time. Who knows if that's really how it works? Because I'm assuming that means you have the state person coming in on reservation land, which means they're traveling. And can the state really afford to put somebody up or months at a time to? So yeah, it's just
how
a whole
long do you
other,
get them?
Right. The state you need for the, I mean, of course, maybe you have, I'm like trying to solve here.
I like it.
Maybe the tribal does all the investigation and then, the resources of like DNA, like that's how the state then helps. I mean, again, who knows? But
as long as we don't have any egos involved.
Yes. Which, easier said than done.
Of course. The result of all that is delays. Gary, Emilee's father, has described waiting weeks for tip follow-ups, watching as interagency finger-pointing stalls progress. Searches that could have been massive were limited. He says no helicopters or full dive teams, partly because no one entity owns the whole response. And like we kind of pointed to, this isn't unique to Emilee's case, unfortunately. Nationwide, MMIW advocates point to these gaps as a crisis multiplier. And that term hit so hard for me, a crisis multiplier. It's exactly right. A 2022 report from the Urban Indian Health Institute found that jurisdictional issues lead to underreporting or data sharing and cases falling through cracks, especially when victims move between reservations, urban areas, or state lines. In remote spots like the Pequon Bridge, where tribal and county lands blur, a simple question like, whose job is it to search this stretch of river, can mean days, weeks that are lost. And for mental health crises like Emilee's, even more layers. Tribal health services, county facilities, state mandates, they're all underfunded and overstretched. Families end up as the coordinators, begging for coordination between these different law enforcement entities. Judy has said that it feels like no one is really in charge. Tribes push for more sovereignty and funding, like the Yurok's 2022 emergency declaration on missing and murdered Indigenous women, but systemic change is painfully slow. Emilee's case shines light on this. A brilliant woman vanishes, and the system designed to find her is fractured from the start. Hope persists in reforms. We have Savannah's Act, Not Invisible Act, aiming to bridge those divides. But until we get this systemic attention, change, actual everyday changes for the Rislings and thousands more, the fight is as much against the map as the unknown. 4 years later, as we sit here in late 2025, or when you're listening, early 2026, the question lingers like a fog over Klamath. What really happened to Emmilee? Officially, law enforcement, from the Yurok Tribal Police to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, they've found no, quote, signs of foul play. We've found no crime scene. No suspects have ever been announced. They've not found evidence of violence. The case remains classified as a missing persons investigation right now, not a homicide. With the $20,000 reward still active, they're holding out for information that could bring her home alive. What are you thinking?
I mean, there's no foul play, yet a $20,000 reward, and it's missing. Come on.
Yeah. It's like
I can read between the lines.
Yep. Agreed. The theories, well, they've always swirled from the beginning, shaped by the remote terrain, Emilee's vulnerable state, and the unsettling tips that never quite resolved. The most straightforward, and perhaps the one investigators lean towards, is an accidental tragedy in the wilderness. But again, like you said, the reward does point to something different.
Right.
Emmilee was last seen undressed and distressed on that isolated bridge in the grip of a severe mental health crisis. The river rushes powerfully below, known for swift currents and hidden dangers. Beyond the river, the Yurok's reservation has rugged hillsides that stretch for miles. They have dense forests, steep drops, places where someone who was maybe disoriented or, like you mentioned, possibly hallucinating could wander and succumb to exposure, dehydration, injury.
I mean, frankly, I would lean more towards that, except there's a reward.
Right. And that's why this case is interesting to me. I mean, they
for sure
are, but that is hard to.
Yeah.
And I know people disappear in the wilderness and are not found for a long time, but
they were searching within a couple of days.
Exactly.
So I would, even if in an animal, there would be, again, gross analogy, but pieces. But even that early in the game, I feel like even falling in, I don't know how deep this river is, but I feel like even if she'd fallen into the river, she would have been found at some point, even downstream.
Yes, that's what I keep thinking about the river too, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this river.
Mm.
But just that there's a reward. And
Yeah.
that's a lot. I mean, 20,000 isn't a lot of money, but it is a lot of money when you see what normal rewards look like. And it doesn't seem like this is from the county, not family reward.
More
so it's
of
not
an official.
It's public. It's not personal rewards. So again, that's a huge difference too.
Exactly.
Right.
If it was from the family.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could easily have 50K, whatever, waiting for, but this is not from the family. This is from the state.
Yeah.
From a state fund.
And they don't offer
again,
those for
so that I just think they know more than they're saying for probably good reason.
Yeah.
It's just, that's very interesting.
Agreed.
And that just in October this year that they reiterated that there's a reward. That also is very telling.
And are asking still for tips and
leads,
information.
Yes.
Exactly. Investigators and her family do think about foul play. And that's the fear that keeps her family up at night. The anonymous map claiming that she was buried under a rock. The inconclusive cadaver dog alerts. I wish they would have been able to excavate that area. There are reports of her hitchhiking in a vulnerable state on lonely roads, which now that you brought up some of the other aspects of Humboldt County, that makes hitchhiking scarier to me. So awful.
I mean, yeah, because that's easy. Pick up a hitchhiker and then take her outside of the area and then dispose of her somewhere else.
Exactly.
That's a great theory.
And I hate it. I hate that. Emilee's parents have never hidden their anguish over this. They've spoken of the slow tip follow-ups, of feeling the effort wasn't equal to other cases. Gary has outright said that more resources go to finding non-Native missing people. But on what they believe happened, they've stopped short of naming foul play publicly, focusing instead on the systemic failures, the lack of mental health support that left her wandering, the jurisdictional delays that slowed the searches. There was a New York Times piece that was written in May of 2025. And in that, so almost 4 years after Judy was expressing how fixated she was on the map and had been for years, wondering if it held any kernel of truth, Gary has shared the pain of waiting, of knowing Emmilee needed help that never came. Her sister Mary has talked about the rapid spiral after postpartum, how she felt like Emmilee let parts of herself go. The family doesn't push one theory over another. They just want answers. They want her home to reunite her with her children and to heal the hole in their lives. As Gary once put it, whatever it takes to help get the word out. And that's where we land today. No closure, just enduring hope, quiet grief, and a reward waiting for the tip that changes everything.
God, so her newborn really doesn't know her.
She's only 5 now. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
That's so sad. Here's the thing. Emmilee isn't just a story from 4 years ago. She's a daughter, a mother, a dancer whose light still flickers in the hearts of her Hoopa Valley family. She has 2 children waiting for answers and a community that will never forget. Over 4 years since that fateful day on the Pequon Bridge, as of December 2025, her case remains active. The Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, like we mentioned, in October renewed the call on the 4th anniversary. The $20,000 reward stands for any information leading to Emilee's safe return or the location of her remains. And this is the part where we turn the narrative into action. If you know something, anything, a sighting from those early days, a conversation overheard, details from that anonymous map, or any other tip, now's your chance. Speak up. Call Cold Case Detective Mike Fridley at 707-441-3024 or reach the Hoopa Tribal Police at 530-625-4202. We will link those in the show notes. You can stay anonymous, that $20,000 could be yours, but more importantly, it could help bring a family back to being whole. Even if you don't have any information, there is a broader call to action. If this is the first you've heard of Emmilee or these other MMIW cases that slip through the cracks, don't scroll past. Share this episode. Follow the Humboldt County Sheriff's Newsroom at humboldtgov.org for updates. Support tribal sovereignty pushes like Savannah's Act. Talk about it because silence is what lets these stories fade. Emmilee was more than a statistic. She was a force, and until she's home, the fight goes on.
Thank you for listening. If her story moved you, subscribe, rate, review, and act. No stone unturned, no voice unheard. We're grateful you've chosen to spend your time with us as we bring attention to these stories that too often go unheard. If you'd like to learn more about the resources and sources we used in today's episode, visit our blog, link through our website at vanishedvoicespodcast.com. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for @VanishedVoicesPod. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and reflections and continue building this community with you. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast. Your support not only helps us reach more listeners, but also helps amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak for themselves. You can find Vanished Voices on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and all other major streaming platforms. And as always, refuse to let these voices vanish.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.